That being said, take it with a grain of salt. Good is new. It's just one thing after another, and just in time. These are 5 expressions that we're going to look at and a little more in this video. Let's go. Hey there, English speakers. Jesse here from Sweed Academy, helping you get your English to the next level. And the way to do that, the best way to do that is to learn these fixed expressions. We're going to look at 5 expressions that came up in lessons, in conversations, or in videos where they will really help your English fluency. I promise. If you learn these and use these and practice these, your English fluency will rise, period. There's nothing more to it. So in this video, we're going to look at the expressions and the meaning, examples, and some pronunciation tricks. Let's get into it. That being said, notice the pronunciation, notice the intonation. That being said, and said, because there's always something that follows after it. That being said, and then you continue. Again, that being said, and then continue. We use this when we're talking about 2 opposite things, right? We're saying something like for sure, but then we think of the opposite thing that could also be true. Let me give you an example. So I don't know if you follow fighting, mixed martial arts, but you probably know the name Conor McGregor, don't you? Question tag, don't you? You probably know, don't you? MMA seems to be losing popularity. True, right? Kind of like, maybe. That being said, Conor McGregor is fighting in a few weeks. That being said, so the general idea, that being said, an argument kind of against that idea. So you're saying the opposite, right? The big idea, that being said, opposite point. Let me give you another example. I don't normally drink during the week. That being said, I wouldn't say no to a nice whiskey, right? I don't normally drink during the week. Big idea. That being said, point against that. I wouldn't say no to a nice whiskey. Do you like whiskey? Have you tried it? It's an acquired taste. But that being said, actually, let me correct that. That being said, let's move on to the next video. Take it with a grain of salt. When you take something with a grain of salt, or when you tell somebody to take something with a grain of salt, it means don't believe what they say 100%, because maybe they exaggerate or they lie or they have some sort of ulterior motive or motivation, like a used car salesman, right? When a car salesman is trying to sell you a car, take what they say with a grain of salt, because they may not tell the 100% truth, right? Take it with a grain of salt. But let's look at another example. You'll have to take what he says with a grain of salt. He tends to exaggerate. You'll have to take what he says with a grain of salt. He tends to exaggerate. Take what he says. Take it, take that, take them, right? Take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe it all the way. You know, have some question, right? Take it with a grain of salt. Good as new. That's good as new. Don't worry, that's good as new. And you use this normally when you clean something or repair something to say, there you go. It's good as new, right? Yeah, You kind of get the idea. There's nothing really to say other than to use it, right? It's good as new. Let's look at an example. If you have children and they get their shoes dirty and they might get upset, you clean it off. There, good as new, right? There, good as new. If you bring something to a repair shop, oh, my computer broke down. Breakdown, my computer broke down. My computer broke down, it won't start. Can you fix it? Don't worry. I'll make it so it's good as new. I'll make it so it's good as new. I'll make it good as new. I'll make it so it's good as new. If you are a repairman, or a woman, this is a great expression to use, to learn and use if you're dealing with English-speaking clients, right? It's good as new. I'll make it so it's good as new. Good is. Good is. Let's look at the pronunciation. Good as. We don't really say good as new unless you want to exaggerate it, right? Good as new. But in normal conversation, there, good as new. Good is. Good as new. The intonation and combining certain words together and sounds together, that will really help your pronunciation. Let's move on. It's one thing after another. Oh, it's never ending when you have so many things to do and things keep piling up at work or your personal life or your family, and then work again, and then school, and you get one and another and another, and it's one thing after another. It's one thing after another. Say that with me. That's a good chant. It's one thing after another. 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 And when you have just people keep asking you to do more and more things, right? And this came up in a lesson, in a conversation, in a lesson. A student was telling me about her next several months. There are meetings and business trips and her regular work and her family. And she was just going through her agenda and she's like, oh, I'm so tired. And then I taught her this. Say this list. This month I have meetings every weekend. I have business trips. I have to go to Madrid for a week. I have to talk with my CEO. I have to take my children to school. It's just one thing after another. It's one thing after another. Like, it's normally negative, right? It's normally exhausting when you have one problem after another. That's when it can also work too. One problem after another. Your car breaks down, and then the school calls you, and then your computer at work freezes up, and then it's just one thing after another this week. It's a good one to use because we all get stressed out, right? And when you get stressed out, if you remember this and say it in English, it might relax you a little bit because you're like, oh, I used it. You know what I mean? You know? Let's move on to the final one. Just in time. Just in time. Just in time when you just beat the buzzer. Right? You came in just before that. When you finished or arrived somewhere or finished something just before or immediately before the finished time. Right? The deadline or the limit or the doors closing, right? You get there just before, just in time, just in time. And the way we say this, the pronunciation, do you know the name Justin? Like Justin Timberlake? Justin. So it's really just in time, just in time, just in time, just in time. You can add a just in time. And this came up in a lesson because a student was taking a practice exam. I gave him a time limit until 1:35. right? I said, you have to be finished by 1:35. And he finished the exam at 1:34. And I said, finished? Just in time. Just in time. Just in time. So these are the 5 expressions this week, and I want you to practice these. I want you to not only learn them and then learn to understand them when you're watching movies or listening to podcasts or, in lessons, right? If your English teacher says these things, right? Note them, and every time you hear them and it rings a bell, there's an expression, it goes that little bit farther. And then once it's a part of you, then it starts making its way down to here and you can start using it. If you like them, right? I give you 5 every week, and some of them are more useful than others. Maybe you like some of them, don't like some of them. That's okay. Use the ones you like. That's what I do. I want you to form your language the way you want. For example, with that being said, in writing, this is great to use in writing, but in writing, you might also say, well, I've learned having said that, and I like that better. Well, use that one, right? So I'm trying to give you options so you can build and form your English the way you want to speak, because that's the best way, right? I'm always doing new things and trying new projects and trying new ideas on Sweed Academy. Go to sweedacademy.com to see what's going on. And maybe you want to become a member and support us and get free stuff and free courses. That'd be cool. If you like this kind of video, then click the subscribe button. It should be over there, and the bell so you can be notified every time we have a lesson. There's another cool video below me right here. Click on that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.